Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Neha Milani.
Thank you, Asad, for having me.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to mention is that you've done your MDS in Prosthodontics and Oral Implantology.
That's right.
That is quite specific, right? So I've always wondered what caused you to gravitate towards this particular field out of all the medical sciences, and not only all the medical sciences, you could have done anything that you wanted in life, right? Why did you choose this particular field and this specialization?
So I think for me, dentistry was a very random choice back then when I had to decide what I had to, choose as my career option. It was a very specific mentality amongst the Indian parents. If you're an A grader, you end up choosing science as your stream after 10th. And then if you do well in 12th, you'll either do medicine or you'll do engineering. So engineering was definitely not my cup of tea, not a technical person at all. So that left me with medicine, and I'm very creative. So a lot of people told me that dentistry will give you that, that platform to use your creativity. At the same time, it's a profession in the medical field. So that's how I gravitated towards dentistry. And then once I did my graduation, post-graduation was never an option. It has to be done. I mean, today is an age of not just specialty, but super specialty. So I always wanted to do my master's, and that's how I ended up doing my master's in prosthodontics, because it's a just to mention here, when you go to a doctor, you're very specific. I want to see a physician, or I want to see an ENT, or I want to see a cardiologist. But not until maybe just a few years back that awareness amongst the masses about that, in dentistry also there is a specialization. Like if you have a gum issue, you'll go to someone who's a gum specialist. If you have a bite issue, you go to someone known as a prosthodontist, which is my specialty. Or if you want to do something called a smile designing, you have to come to a prosthodontist. So I was very interested in everything that my specialty offers, and that's how I ended up choosing prosthodontics.
You're right, because I think the Indian market is still not that sensitive towards dentistry in general. In fact, I'd like to mention something, that digestion does not begin from the stomach, and in fact begins from the mouth. And a lot of issues or general diseases that are caused are mostly because of not chewing your food properly, or due to cavities or gum problems. I think you will be able to elaborate on those better. So what I want to ask is, in your specific field of dentistry, like you mentioned, there's bite correction and there's gum problems. So what is it that you do exactly?
So prosthodontics basically involves like prosthesis, new set of teeth. So that begins with someone who has no teeth and say wants a set of dentures that are removable, or something even like better than the regular dentures that we had earlier, which is implant supported dentures. It also involves smile designing, the Hollywood and Bollywood smiles that you see in celebrities. It's something that is not, an option available only to celebrities, and it's not a luxury. It's become like everyone who's concerned about the way they look. We're so concerned about the way our skin is. We're so concerned about the way our hair is. But why not our teeth, right? Because our smile adds to the overall look of our face. So, smile designing has so many options. Then a lot of people have a lot of worn out teeth or have missing teeth, which causes alignment issues. So again, something called as full mouth rehabilitation, that comes under my specialty. So these are some of the main areas that we cover in prosthodontics and oral implantology, and of course any set of missing teeth that has to be replaced.
So I think the misconception again with the Indian market is that this specialization of dentistry that you're in is a lot to do with aesthetics, right? But firstly, like you mentioned, it's become more affordable and accessible, firstly.
Yeah.
And secondly, I think aesthetics and functionality in dentistry go hand in hand, because if you have crooked teeth, you'll not be able to chew properly. Yeah, could you elaborate on that?
You can't clean properly, you can't chew properly. So you have to aesthetic, like you correctly mentioned. There's no point of aesthetics without function, and just function and not aesthetics is not a complete package. So they both go extremely hand in hand, and that's why we call it bioaesthetics.
Okay. After pursuing dentistry, you must have gained a lot of knowledge about how to take care of your own gums and own teeth and etc., right?
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that changed in your personal schedule, like, the way you brush your teeth, or what toothpaste you use, or what toothbrush you use? Like, were there major changes in
Of course, I became more mindful, because if I'm going to tell my patients that you have to floss every day and I don't floss every day, I think that's absolutely incorrect. So definitely flossing was added to my oral hygiene regimen. Brushing twice, like not just once in the morning, but even before I go to bed. That was something that was added to my regimen. Rinsing after every meal, which is again something that we ignore, but it's so important to prevent further cavity formation. So that was something that I'm very, very mindful about. Thoroughly rinsing. Cleaning of the tongue. How many of us clean our tongue every day? One of the main reasons for bad breath, which a lot of people complain about, is not scraping your tongue. So that was something that was added to my oral hygiene regimen. And then the most important thing, that going to a dentist every 6 months for a checkup and for a cleanup. That was again something that's like on the calendar. Like I have to do my cleanup every 6 months. So so of course, like everything that I'm basically telling my patients to do as part of their oral hygiene regimen is first starts with me, and then it sort of goes down to my patients.
You have a professional Instagram handle called the Next Door Dentist.
That's
I went
right.
through it. It's very interesting, very
Thank you.
fascinating.
Thank you.
So could you just elaborate on what the Next Door Dentist is and how it came to be?
So COVID struck the world 2 years back, and before COVID I'd finished my masters in 2015, so I was like 5 years into practice. And these 5 years I was just like working. I didn't really have the time to sit down and think about my branding and all of that. So COVID sort of gave us some time to just halt and think about branding, and how I would like to portray myself to my clients and to my prospective clients. So the first thing is that nobody wants to go to a dentist. Most people fear going to a dentist. So that is something that the fear has to go out. Dentists are not as unapproachable as they seem to be. So I was just thinking that what is it that my brand name has to signify. So after a lot of brainstorming and thinking and rejecting 1,000 names that I thought of, so the bottom line was I wanted a friendly approach. Like when a patient comes to me, the first thing is they have to be comfortable on a chair just talking to me, and then we take forward to whatever needs to be done. So next door means something like someone who's very chill, like your next door neighbor. You have that comfort zone with them. So that's how I came up with the name, the Next Door Dentist, and I'm very glad that it has been very well, the brand name has been very well perceived by my followers, my clients, and now they've stopped calling me by my name, Dr. Neha. They all call me the Next Door Dentist. So I like that.
Okay, Next Door Dentist. Tell me.
Yeah.
So if I have to come to you for a consultation,
Yeah.
and if I want something changed, how does the process work? Let's say from step A to the final step where I'm done with all my procedures and everything. Like, how does it work?
Okay, so I am a consultant prosthodontist in Pune, which means that I visit several clinics. So what you have to do is, if you're Instagram friendly, you can send me a DM. We can set up an appointment at a clinic that's convenient to you, closer to where you live. And then once you come in for a checkup, we do a thorough assessment of what needs to be done. We also check your medical history, because just because we're dealing with the teeth, we don't forget what's happening with the rest of your body. So your oral health is the gateway to your overall health. And there are some procedures in dentistry which we have to keep your medical status in mind when we're doing those procedures, like an extraction or an implant. So we thoroughly assess even your medical status, and then we go forward in that way. And like I said, that today is an age and time of specialty and super specialty. So I handle the prosthetic bit of things. But supposing a root canal has been done, that is going to be done by a specialist in my team. So I work with a whole panel of specialists, and we all work together as a team to deliver you your dream smile.
You mentioned earlier that the average person is a little afraid of going to the dentist.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because they're scared of pricks and needles and maybe they feel like, they've ignored their oral health for the longest time, and there's going to be a lot that needs to be done. It's going to be a whole Pandora's box. So exactly, that's the thing, that if you see your dentist every 6 months, something as small as a cavity is not going to progress into being a root canal, and something that has progressed into a root canal will not further get damaged to a point wherein that tooth needs to be extracted and cannot be salvaged anymore. So if you see a dentist every 6 months, we will be able to detect the problems at their early stage, and the treatments will be minimally invasive. So my point always in every talk that I do is, you have to fix a date with your dentist twice a year.
Noted. Okay, I noticed that before you started the next door dentist, you had a campaign called Tooth Tales.
That's right.
Which ultimately became the next door dentist. So
Right.
what was that about?
So, like I said, that, people don't like going to dentists. There is not so much awareness about oral health. Now, of course, a lot of dentists are coming out and giving awareness talks. But when I thought of that concept, still that awareness was missing. So I wanted to deliver information about oral health in a very interesting way and in a very holistic way. So like I said, that, smile is one part of your overall look. Right. So what I did was, I collaborated with a nutritionist and I collaborated with a hair and skin expert. So what we did is, it was a 45-day oral wellness campaign, wherein thrice a week we would roll out information, sometimes about oral health, sometimes about nutrition, and sometimes about hair and skin care. So over a period of 45 days, the people who were part of the campaign, who joined our WhatsApp group, and we had about close to 500 people who joined that WhatsApp group from all over the world. So we divided it into 2 WhatsApp groups. They were getting some very important and very doable home remedies to their oral health, to their nutrition, and to their hair and skin care. So it was a very holistic holistic care campaign, which really garnered good support, and people benefited from it.
Okay, that's quite fascinating. Another thing that I wanted to ask is, before I met you, I wasn't even aware, like I was familiar, but I wasn't aware that there was a special branch of dentistry that you're pursuing, and that, I'd have to go to a different person to get my gums checked, or if I have to get my teeth aligned properly. So are there any more sub branches or fields in dentistry that we don't know about, and what is the future like?
So there are 9 specialties.
Okay, please go ahead.
There are 9 specialties. There's, of course, a root canal specialist who's known as an endodontist. There's a gum specialist who's known as a periodontist. And there's my branch, which is prostho. When you need braces or you need alignment correction, there's an orthodontist. If you want to get your wisdom tooth removed, which is one of the most common procedures, you have to go see an oral maxillofacial surgeon. So like that, we have, when you want to show your child to a dentist, there is a special child dentist who's known as a periodontist. So there are 9 specialties, and every specialty, we spend 3 years learning about a specialty, and that's not the end of it. We have to upgrading ourselves, throughout our lives. So there is a reason why someone is a specialist, and there's a reason why you need to show a particular problem to a particular specialist. It's like, you can't go for your heart problem to an ENT.
Right.
It's similar.
Yes. Okay, that brings me to my next question. So as technology progresses and we become more advanced in everything, how do you think this is going to impact dentistry, and is it for the better or for the worse?
It's definitely for the better. In fact, digital dentistry, I can't even say it's the future. It's very much the present, wherein, we can show you, it begins with something as common and widely used as digital smile designing, wherein supposing you're doing a smile designing treatment, wherein say we're doing something called as ceramic veneers for you to correct the shape, the size, the color of your teeth. We can simulate that on your face and show you how your smile is going to look even before we sort of do it in your mouth. So, that is something that is very commonly done now. Then there's something called as Invisalign, which is invisible braces. So in that we show you, supposing you have like a completely malaligned set of dentition in your mouth, or you have like crowding, you have overlap, or extensive overlap, we can show you how at the end of the aligners how your smile is going to be, and once you approve it, that's when we place the order for your aligners. Then like gone are the days wherein we took manual impressions in the mouth. There's something called as digital impressions now. We scan the impression. So digital dentistry is coming in a very, very big way. The only thing is, at the moment it's slightly expensive, so it's not something that is there at every clinic. It's definitely more accurate, and it's already being used, and in future it's going to be the way dentistry is going to be.
Are you aware that there's I don't know if it's a device or what would I call it exactly, that you can put in your mouth and it whitens your teeth? Are you aware of what that is?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, is that firstly necessary? The reason why I'm asking you is because I've heard somewhere and I read somewhere, in fact a lot of places, that pearl white or like super bright white is not exactly the natural color of your teeth and it's not good for them. So firstly, could you shed some light upon this device? And yeah.
So there are a lot of teeth whitening devices that are available, and there are a lot of these DIY home remedies for whitening of the teeth. So my recommendation to my patients who want to get teeth whitening done is that the best form of teeth whitening is at a dental office, because we are monitoring the process of teeth whitening. Now, we use a chemical for whitening your teeth. Now, there are different it comes in different percentages. Okay, now if it's a very strong one, it can lead to burning of your gums, it can lead to extreme sensitivity in your teeth. So for something like an aesthetic procedure which is whitening your teeth, you don't want to end up in a problem that's going to cause severe sensitivity in your teeth. So the best form of teeth whitening is when it's monitored under strict supervision of a dentist. So the best form of teeth whitening is in-office teeth whitening.
Okay. You might not want to answer this next question, and it's okay. Are there any secrets that dentists know that the general people don't know?
Any secrets about
just the kind of toothbrush that we're supposed to use, or the toothpaste?
No. We give out all the secrets. We tell you which toothpaste is suited for you, which toothbrush is suited for you. Because to be honest, if you ask me, that if a patient comes with multiple dental problems, it's not a very happy situation to treat. So I like to see patients who are very well maintained, and I tell them that, oh, you don't have a single cavity, like congratulations, you've done a good job. So I'm very happy. It's a delight for me to see such people, because cavities, which we call as dental caries, it's like a lifestyle problem, like how obesity is a lifestyle problem, or like now graying of the hair, every person has it. Dental cavities have become like a lifestyle problem. Everyone has it, and it's just not like one or two, it's multiple. And you'll be surprised that it's not like people who belong to the lower strata of society or who don't have access to education, they are the ones who suffer from it. It's very well educated people, the so-called cream of the society, they are the ones who have the most poor oral hygiene. So it's not restricted to a particular strata of the society. It's just like a world problem, I would say.
Okay, I'd like to digress a little bit here, because while going through your personal Instagram handles and Neha Milani and the next door dentist, I noticed that you are well qualified to sit where I'm sitting here today because you've done this with other people. So you have interviewed multiple personalities on a wide variety of issues. Let's start with Mr. Hiranandani. So he's someone who has been a maverick in the real estate and construction industry for a while now. So what was that about, and what did you learn from him?
Right. So firstly, thank you for this amazing chocolate shake. It's just so amazing, and I think we want to talk more and more with this in our hand. So thank you for this. So what I realized during the whole COVID situation was that there's a lot of social media is such a powerful tool, right? I mean, if you want to spread a message, an impactful message, you want to transform lives, you want to change lives, there cannot be a better platform than social media in today's age and time. and there's no geographical restriction to who you can reach through social media. But at the same time, like this platform was being, if I may say, misused for a lot of, like, nonsensical stuff. So I said that there's just so much nonsense happening on social media. Why not use this powerful resource to sort of come up with impactful content on social media? So why not, get into a candid conversation with people who are change makers in the society, who've really, like, thought out of the box, and who have really created a mark for themselves in the society and for the world at large. So I said I want to interview those people. So one of them was Dr. Hiranandani, because at that point of time there was a lot of uncertainty in people's minds. Not like it's not there now, but at that time it was a little more than what it is now. A lot of people had lost their jobs, businesses were running heavy losses, and since he's been in the real estate industry for the longest time and has seen, he's a thought leader in his profession. So to sort of get his perspective, not only in the real estate sector but at business at large. So I thought of interviewing him, and it was a very, very good interview. The first thing that I learned from him is that even though he is so he's up there, he has 1 million engagements every single day, he was personally in touch with me for that interview. Like, he never thought that how can I call someone who is, who's not at all established in her field, like how can I, speak to her directly? Like, I can make my secretary speak to her. But he never had that air about himself. So he would stay in touch with me by himself. The day he did an interview with me, he had 6 other interviews that day. Mine was the 7th one. So that was another thing, that like how they multitask. And at the same time, even though they're multitasking, he was not looking tired, or he wasn't tired answering my questions. He was still very energetic and very enthusiastic about the whole interview. So that was the second thing. The third thing was about all these misconceptions that we have about, we read about Bill Gates and these other famous people who've been school dropouts or college dropouts. Like, so what is the role of education? These are like, they are again world leaders, thought leaders in their respective fields. How did they make it there without having a formal education? And here we're like working so hard for getting into Ivy Leagues and all of that. So that was another thing that he sort of said, that like they might not have undergone the process of formal education, but they read so much. Like when they're on a flight, they finish a book, so they're not depriving themselves of that knowledge and that wisdom, and that is what is sort of getting them where they are. So one is that keep reading, keep expanding your horizons, keep getting as much exposure as you can, because that's what's gonna like set you apart from the rest. So that was another thing that I very vividly remember from that interview.
I think, Neha, you should come and sit here. You only start a podcast.
Talking too much, no? Not letting you talk, Nas.
I have the easiest job. No, I love it. I love it when somebody comes and I have to ask one question and just...
Yeah, I can talk too much, sorry.
No, it's beautiful. Ask, please. We love it. We love it. Okay. So, not only that, you've interviewed some other people, quite interesting personalities. One very notable one was Vani Murthy, popularly known as Worm Rani.
Yeah.
So could you throw some light on that conversation?
Yeah, she is like an absolute inspiration, not only because of the work that she's doing, but because of how old she is and how she sort of turned her whole passion into... Like, if you see the followers that she has on Instagram, she handles her whole Instagram profile by herself. She's 60 plus years old. She's turned her passion of turning waste, like, dry waste, wet waste into... She's basically into vermicomposting. She's into composting. And that's why she's termed herself the Worm Rani. So how she is progressing towards a completely zero waste lifestyle. Um, at that age, you can be like, listen, I've lived my life and I don't know how many more years I'm going to live. So let the future generation think about what they want to do. But here she is, she's giving like multiple talks, she's conducting workshops on vermicomposting, and she's doing all this on pro bono basis. So she's doing this for our generation, because so that our the world that we live in is much better, and is we move towards a waste free lifestyle. So that she was another absolute inspiration, and I really wanted to interview her, and we learned so much about sustainability from her. So yeah, I really enjoyed interviewing her.
Okay, now I want to get to something that I've been meaning to ask you off camera as well. So you are currently the chairperson of the Bridge Builders Association Pune. I don't even know where to begin, because this is, firstly, I'd like to tell our viewers that this is not something that you were tasked with. It is an entirely voluntary position that takes up a lot of your time and effort, but you've done such a great job, and I can personally vouch for that because I've been part of one of the events that you've organized.
Thanks.
So I think it's been a decade now since you've been at the forefront of things. Just tell us what it's been like. How did it begin? Firstly, let's start from the beginning. How did you get into the volunteering part of it?
So my family is they follow the Sadhu Vaswani mission, and we've been going to the mission since I was a child. So that has been like my home, And then we have this youth wing called Bridge Builders at the Sadhu Vaswani mission. So earlier when I was a child, I would just go for these youth meets and, attend the programs, go for the sevas. We used to go to orphanages and old age homes every Sunday. And then as I started becoming more active, I was asked to sort of take up the position of being the chairperson. And I just found it so ironic because it was such a it was such an important role for the group, and at the same time that was the exact time I was starting my master's in dentistry, which was again a very time consuming sort of course. So I was just like, oh my god, how am I going to do it? But then it happened, so it made me realize that it's us, it's our mind that says that no, if I'm doing this I cannot do this, or if I'm doing this is like this cannot be prioritized. But I mean, I did my master's in prosthodontics, and at the same time I was very busy at the Bridge Builders, so it was something that I did, and I just felt like it was the perfect balance, because when I was probably tired of studying, I had Bridge Builders to look forward to, and when Bridge Builders got a little taxing, I had dentistry to sort of go back to. So it was the perfect blend. So Bridge Builders, the youth wing of the Sadhu Vaswani mission, what it does is we organize an event which is a youth-centric event every month at the Sadhu Vaswani mission. That event revolves around different topics that are sort of the burning issues of youngsters. Then we do one seva every month, wherein we can go to an orphanage or an old age home, or basically any institute that is in need of something. We go and try and help out as much as we can. And then we do 2 spiritual fellowship programs on Ekadashi days in a month. So we used to do like 4 events every month, and I think it was one of the best phases of my life being the chairperson, because I got to meet so many people from all over the world, not just India. It made me understand how to manage a team. A team means handling so many different mindsets, handling so many different egos, and I was very, very young at that time. I was like 23, 24, and it was not easy. I didn't know how to handle a situation every time, but it taught me along the way. And in the end, I just realized that okay, even though I was given that role of doing this, it was basically for my own growth. Supposing today, if you're doing an event on anger, it is so I had to do a lot of research on anger before we did that event, right? So it was for me, it was for my understanding and my involvement rather than for the audience. That was just a byproduct, but it was essentially for my inner growth that all this was coming my way.
So, along the years, it's evident that you have grown as a person, that you've overcome many challenges. But what are some of the most notable things that you would like to look back and remember? What are some of the most notable events that you've done, and why? And just generally, like, what are some of your fondest memories of?
So one thing that I really sort of learned is I was like a micromanager. So there was an event, and an event there's so much to do. There's decor, there's publicity, there's poster designing, there's content, I wanted to do everything in the beginning. I was like, no, it has to be as per me, and like I have to look into the nitty-gritties of everything. But over a period of time, I have sort of learned to delegate and be happy with the product that each team member sort of contributes to. So it's taught me to let go, and you can't micromanage everything when you're doing such big events and handling so many people. So that is one thing that I really learned, and that has sort of translated even in my life to just like let go. Can't like keep control of everything. So that is one. The other, just when sort of people come and tell you that if they've taken back something from the events that we've done, because when Dada GP Vaswani was in his physical form, we used to have a question answer session with him at least 6-7 times in a year. And the questions used to be anything under the sun. If supposing today I have a career issue, that would be a question. If someone was going through a divorce, that would be a question. If someone wanted to someone had some spirituality related questions, they would ask that question. So when all this complete package was like sort of given to the audience at an event, and people would come and tell me at the end of the event that this was not my question, but this was the question that was running in my mind, and I was fighting this issue in my mind, and thank you so much for this. And I would just be like, you don't know when you're doing that event, you don't know how it's going to sort of impact people's lives. Or when we started these classes for children, and the change that has come in the children when parents come and tell you, my child before the Gurukul class never used to get so irritated when they had to stand in a queue, but now after the Gurukul class they're like standing patiently in a queue and saying that let's wait. So when you hear these things, these small things from people, that's when you realize that it's all worth it, and it's also teaching you so much in the whole process. So that is one. Some of the events that I remember very, very vividly is this walkathon that we had organized. Sorry, it was a marathon that we had organized for suicide prevention. It was called the H3 Run, which is Hope, Help, Heal Run, which is the motto of Bridge Builder. So that is one thing that I really remember, because suicide has become it's way more common than we ever think of it. So, and the reason for it can be very insignificant. Nothing is more important than this human birth. There's nothing more valuable than the human birth. So when someone takes away their life, it's very, very sad. And people think that, by committing suicide, they're putting an end to their problems. But if you look at it from a spiritual point of view, you're only adding to your problem. So all the karmas that you've not sort of faced in this birth, you'll have to face it with interest in your next birth if you've committed suicide. So your problems are only going to get compounded. So that is one event that I very strongly remember. Then of course, we've done plays on Saint Mira, which I remember, and I don't think I would have ever read about Saint Mira if it wasn't for the play that we did with the Bridge Builders. Or we did a play on Rumi. We've done a play on Raja Harishchandra. So all these, stories of the great ones, I don't think I would have ever read in such detail if it wasn't for the Bridge Builders. met so many interesting personalities like Nipun Mehta, who runs Moved by Love in the US, and at his center, prisoners are sent to his center for reflection and for thinking about what they did and how they can improve it. So, people who are dealing with problems with so much compassion and love. So, I've met all these interesting personalities thanks to Bridge Builders. So yeah, I think I'm going to be very, very grateful for this position. And even though, like, when I was doing those big events, and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't think I can do it. Why am I here? And, like, how am I going to manage so much? But I think every minute of it has been worth it.
So you mentioned you've met a lot of interesting personalities, but I think the most interesting and special individual or personality that you met, or rather got a lot of time to spend with, was Dada Vaswani himself.
Absolutely.
I think it's incredible what the mission is doing, not only because of the events that you're organizing specifically towards things like suicide prevention and the youth and children, but also because of the amount of charity that you guys do and the amount that you guys give back to society. And that is what Dada Vaswani was all about. He was here as a guiding light, like a beacon of light, hope to humanity.
Absolutely.
I've read most of his books and they're very eye-opening. So since you've spent so much time with him, who is he to you and what impact has he made on your life?
Oh, he's like everything to me. He's more important than anyone. He's the most important personality and will be the most important personality and the most important influence on my life. He is like I don't want to say was, because he still lives on.
Yes.
I didn't do a single thing in my life without asking him, right from my education, to which college I had to go to which job I would take up, to whether I could travel to a particular place or not, to every single thing was asked by him. So trained to do everything that he sort of guided us to do. I think if I talk about Dada, like, no number of sessions would be enough.
I agree.
But so his two very prominent qualities are his humility, being the spiritual giant he was, but yet so humble.
I think that goes hand in hand.
So,
anybody who's actually spiritual will always be humble. Because if a person is not humble, he is not spiritual.
Yeah. So definitely his humility, and in fact saints who've come to him, they have publicly announced that if you want to learn humility, you have to learn it from Dada Vaswani. And the love that he gave everyone.
Always had a smile on his face,
he always
irrespective
had a smile
of what he was going through.
Exactly.
Or personally, I didn't get a chance to meet him. I would have had a chance to meet him, but unfortunately he passed away 1 year before we did that event.
We did the camp, yeah.
But yeah, the little that I've read about him in his books and his books that he's written, and the little that I've seen because of you and the Bridge Builders, the man always had a smile on his face.
Absolutely. So, like today, if you ask anyone about him or the experiences that they've had with him, they'll tell you one thing, that he always made me feel like I am his most special person. If you went to him, he would make you feel like you're the most special person to him. So that quality, to give the same amount of love to each and every person who comes across to you with the most silliest doubts. Like, I would ask him the most silliest doubts. I don't have to ask him, can I go to Bombay tomorrow? But I would ask him and he would patiently reply to it and give me his thoughts on it. Or like, asking about every single job that was offered to me. I mean, he's beyond all this. So, but still, the patience and the love and the understanding with which he sort of answered every question is something that I'm always going to remember. The other thing that I'm going to remember very, very prominently is that, we had done something called as a 24 hours Sevathon. This was in Jan and he dropped his physical body in July. So he was ailing at that time. So what we did during the 24-hour Sevathon is every hour a different Seva was organized. Okay, so we started at 12 midnight on day 1 and we finished 12 midnight on day 2. So he wanted to meet all the volunteers who were involved in the Sevathon. So we went to meet him. This was about 1 week after the Sevathon was done. And whenever we went to Dada, we were so excited to tell him everything. And I was like, we did this, we went here and blah, 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 blah. I went on and on and on. So then after that, he asked me, when did you do this Seva? And I was like, maybe a week, 10 days back. And he was like, you did it 1 week, 10 days back and you still remember? He's like, if you remember and you articulate the Seva that you've done, you've not done any Seva. So that is one thing that has sort of really like stayed with me, that if we are serving and we're talking about it, we do a small thing, we'll give something to a beggar and we want to put it on social media, so
I'll tell you. So what Dada was trying to say is there's a concept, it's called the law of one. Now the law of one says that there are only two things in this world. There's service to self and service to others.
Right.
So even when we do something good for someone else, we do it as a service to self because we feel good about
Exactly.
ourselves. So Dada truly understood what it meant to be service to others because his entire life was service to others.
Absolutely. In fact, one of his thoughts says that the loan that you have to pay for inhabiting this physical body is service to the poor. So that's the loan that we have to pay.
You've already accomplished so much in your life. What next? Or rather, if I had to put it more elaborately so that you can answer in a more concise manner, where will we see Neha Milani in the next maybe 5 or 10 or 25 years down the line? And where does Neha Milani want to see herself? In terms of everything, whether it be dentistry or the bridge builders or the mission, is there a plan that you have in mind? Like, okay, maybe like, I'll give you an example. Do you plan to work till the day you die? Or you're like, you know what, I'll take it easy after a bit. Bridge builders, okay, no, I'm ready to give it on to somebody else because we require someone fresh. Just walk me through it.
So, after COVID, I don't want to have like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan because life is just so uncertain. But definitely, I want to see myself progress. You have to be every single day. I want to be a better dentist than what I was today. I want to be more skillful than what I was today. I want to know one more thing in dentistry than what I know today because it's a never-ending learning process. So definitely that's a plan, to keep upgrading, to keep getting better and better at what I do. In terms of bridge builders, yes. I think the best thing for a leader is to create more leaders. So I definitely want to see a whole brand new team of leaders taking bridge builders to the next level. So nothing would make me happier than that. So yeah.
I think it's quite noble and quite humble of you to realize, in spite of doing such a good job, that there is a time for everyone to move on and that it's better than that somebody else takes over. And like you mentioned, only a true leader will want to create more leaders. It is only a false leader that wants to hold on and cling to power and his fame and status.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity. If it wasn't for the bridge builders, I wouldn't learn so much more in life than what I have because I would just be so focused towards my profession only. But you have to realize that work is only a part of your life. It is not your life entirely. So work-life balance is something that I'm a huge believer in, and I like to get done with work by 5:36, and then after that it's me time to do whatever I like to do. So all the people who sort of glamorize overworking and thinking that wow, this is the way you're supposed to work, this is the way you're gonna attain success. No, that's not the way you're gonna attain success.
I think taking care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health, your psychological health is very important.
Very, very important.
And also I think it depends from person to person. Some people find their work so pleasing and they're so passionate about it, for them it's not work, so they can keep doing it. But I think the real message here is that you don't need to look at other people to know what you should be doing. Yeah, just each to your own. There's
Just
no
because your
timeline.
friend is working 8 hours and you're working 6 hours, that doesn't make you any less competent in your profession than the other. So don't equate success or competency to the number of hours that you're working.
Like Dada and yoga always teaches us, it's not about being perfect, because there is no such thing as perfection. It's just trying to be the best possible version of yourself, and the best possible version of yourself might be very different from somebody else's best possible version of themselves, because imagine if we had only one type of people in this world. That's not possible, right?
Absolutely.
So you're someone who is also quite spiritual yourself, and it's but natural after spending so much time with a personality like Dada Vaswani. You've also been practicing yoga. Could you just shed some light on what yoga means to you and how it has changed you?
So I've been very fortunate that I have the most amazing yoga teacher, Patil ma'am, who's your mom. Before that, I hated yoga. In fact, the first time I came to meet ma'am, I told her that I find yoga very boring. And so my body, I mean, like, was extremely rigid. Like, I was a mess when I came to ma'am. And then now, definitely I'm not there, but I can see a big change in the way my body is moving, and like how ma'am says that, you know what, your mat life translates into your real life. So the whole thing about flow in life, you know, we're so, like, you know, we're so
Rigid.
we're so rigid, we're so controlled, we're so, like, we want everything our way, but there's something called as flow, and there's beauty in flow. So that is something that yoga teaches you. And it also teaches you that the most painful moments take you to the most beautiful moments of your life. So initially every posture is extremely painful, but once you get it, it's liberating. So that is again very similar to real life.
For someone who does so much, who has to take care of a professional career, and someone who has to take care of bridge builders, and who also practices yoga and needs her me time after 6 p.m. Could you shed some light on what does your day-to-day regimen look like?
So I of course begin my day with yoga. 1.5 hours of yoga, 6 days a week. After that, I get ready for my work day, which goes on till about 6:30, on most days. And then after that, if there's some bridge builders event happening, I sort of work towards that. Or there are meetings that have to be done related to bridge builders, we do that. Or if bridge builders are not on the cards for that particular week or whatever, then I love to go for a walk. I love to watch things on Netflix. I love watching all these the luminaries on YouTube. I absolutely love watching TED Talks, and yeah.
So what are some of the most notable recommendations when it comes to movies, TV shows, or even books that you would suggest?
So I don't read fiction. I'm mostly into non-fiction, and I love all the books written by Dadaji. My favorite one is question and answer session by him, wherein there is a section to every topic, right from spirituality to marriage to anger to fear to anxiety. So basically all the questions that have been asked to him on these topics till till a certain time, they have been covered in that book. So that's like a book for your life, like you'll learn all the life lessons by reading that book. So that's one of my favorite books that I've read by him. And just TED Talks. I mean, every TED Talk has so much to talk about, Every TED Talk will have one takeaway message. So just, Elon Musk, his whole life, Jeff Bezos, I mean, his life, all these people, they're just so inspirational.
So it's pretty evident after knowing you for a while, and after spending this much time conversing with you, that you're quite fortunate to be blessed and surrounded by a lot of gifted individuals like
That's
Dada
true.
Vaswani and whoever else. But
And Patil ma'am.
another notable individual that you haven't mentioned that who's made a great impact on your life is your father.
Yes.
So could you talk a little bit about what he means to you, who he is, and he's had quite a journey himself, right? So could you just throw some light on that as well?
So one of the biggest gifts that my parents have given me is definitely to introduce me to Dada JP Vaswani at a very, very young age. I think that is one gift that is above everything else. So, and definitely, like, I cannot go without mentioning this. Like, bridge builders was a very, very big responsibility, and if it wasn't for my family's support, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So they've been extremely, extremely beyond supportive to all my endeavors in life, not just bridge builders, to my career, to everything else that I wanted to ever do in life. So, so my dad, yeah, he's a completely self-made man because, like most of us, like most of our grandparents, they came as refugees from Pakistan. They came with nothing at all. So he's literally like built his empire from scratch, and that is one quality in him that I would like to imbibe is perseverance and endurance. So, like the lifestyle that he's given my brother and me is because of his sheer hard work and perseverance. So, yeah, so my father, I mean, my entire family is a hardcore business family, like any Sindhi family. And most of the people ask me this question that if you had such an established business, why would you do dentistry? So, my answer to them is that it happened by chance, but I was meant to be a dentist, right? I mean, everyone's meant to be something. So, I was meant to be a dentist, and my parents are very proud, rather my whole family is very proud that at least we have one person who's in the medical field in our family. So yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a question which I ask all of my guests, and it's kind of become a staple of the podcast. So for you do things obviously not because you had to do them, but it's pretty evident that you wanted to do most of the things that you've done in your life. But if this was Neha Milani's world, or if you could do anything, live your life or live anywhere in the world, or just absolutely no limitations, money was no object, time was no object, space was no object, what would Neha Milani's ideal world look like? Not just in terms, sorry to interrupt, not just in terms of your personal self, like I would want Dada back, or wish that he was with me, or this is the country that I would live in. Just generally, what, like, there would be no world hunger. Like, just talk us through it.
Those sort of things.
Everything. Like when I tell you, what does Neha Milani's ideal world look like? I don't just mean personal. I mean like from the worldview and society perspective as well.
Okay. So I feel like ideal is a very
wishful word.
Yeah, you can make whatever situation you are in, you can turn it into an ideal situation. It's all in your hands. So, today each one of us, okay, if we are complaining about poverty in India, each one of us have been given the ability to change that in the best way we can. Of course, you can't go and feed every single hungry soul, but you can definitely feed some, and that's a drop in the ocean. So I feel ideal is you can create your ideal world by being in this not so ideal world also. But my wish would definitely be that there's a lot of depression these days, and it's become so common. It's become like, how you used to say, I have fever, I'm down with a viral fever. It's become as common as that. It's a very, I don't know whether maybe I'm not technically right, but I think it's used very, very loosely, the term. So I wish people didn't go and slip into depression or didn't overthink about their problems so much so that they take away from they take away their peace and happiness from being present in the current moment. Most of the times depression is because you're either disturbed about something that happened to you in the past or you're anxious about your future. It's not about what you're going through in this moment. So and whatever it may be, every problem has a solution and everything can be amended. So like I've seen so many people absolutely destroy the quality of their life and the quality of life of people around them because they are into depression. And most of the times those causes of depression are very materialistic and not something that is going to give you happiness in the long term. It could be not getting a particular job, it could be loss in business. Like there's always a new job that you can get, there's always money that you can earn again. So these are not really reasons that you should sort of slip into depression. It's very unfortunate. Maybe I can say this because I have not been in that position, but I think my ideal world would be wherein each child and each individual in the world is equipped and is taught to equip with their emotions and learn to process them so that they don't slip into depression.